We all come at this from such different angles. It's all really fascinating to me. What an interesting weekend. Thank you for having me. So, my great passion and focus is the knowing of the Christ self within, the indwelling Christ I am, the one that knows its own true identity and yours. So, everything I teach relates to this in one way or another, because part of that great desire is to share with you how wonderful that path of ascension is and why you should want to aspire to it. Like what's in it for you. Because let's face it, we have all been taught to not even go there. Like there are no benefits for the self by choosing the Christed path, only massive drawbacks, right? Like massive drawbacks. But actually the opposite is true. The immediate benefits are so magnificent, so incredibly worthwhile. But having said that, the indwelling Christ consciousness is here and we're here, and there's no obvious bridge. You are the bridge. You're it right now. But understanding that intellectually doesn't help, as I discovered. So I was really stuck a few years ago because the Christ itself was calling, and I could feel the call, but I couldn't seem to pick up the damn phone. I just didn't know how. And I thought I knew. My spiritual practices were all about that. But it turns out that I had been unknowingly using them to back myself into a corner. They were perfect teachings with an imperfect recognition of what they were pointed to. So I had no choice. I dropped everything. I surrendered everything that I thought I knew, and I let myself be guided. And I have to tell you, this new terrain has taken me to some pretty surprising places. And along the way, I've learned tools, illusory tools, that I never would have bothered to master otherwise. But these are tools that have been genuinely helpful to me in reaching higher than ever before towards being my own bridge to the firsthand knowing of the Christed self within. And along the way, to my great surprise and amazement, these tools have helped to totally revolutionize my experience of daily life too, in a really profound way. For instance, like I'm actually sailing through this awkward time period right now with a reasonable amount of joy. And that surprised me because actually I wasn't trying for any of that. But, before this, I very much used to prefer stable predictability. And so this period of shifting sands beneath our feet would have seriously unsettled me, as it does for so many. But actually the opposite is happening. This amazing equanimity and inner certainty is happening as a side benefit of rising up toward the knowing of the Christ self within. So these tools that I'm using and that I want to offer today, they are practical stepping stones for rising up towards knowing the true self. And part of that rising up, as I said, is the ability to know unshakable inner stability no matter what. So really, that's why I'll be sharing these tools today. They're metaphysical tools. And I think you'll find they're helpful. It's helpful to understand how the universe works, because actually our spirituality is an intrinsic part of that. Your Christ itself works through the workings of the illusory universe. That is, in some ways, what the very definition of a Christ is, which is a whole other topic. So this whole presentation is very much about the metaphysics of how the universe works and how we operate within it, both before and after awakening to our own true divine identity. And I got to tell you, some of what I'll be talking about, not all of it, but some of it, will probably remind you a little bit of pop cultural teachings that you're already familiar with, because they too are looking at how the universe works and how we operate within it. But they're doing it from a fear-based framework. They're trying to game the system, you know? But that is not what this is about. Universal law is what it is, and that's why parts of it might sound familiar to you. But we're using universal law as a step up to reach toward the indwelling divine. That's our purpose. And yes, miracles do pop from stepping upward, but those miracles are not of our own design. We're not masterminding anything. And in fact, these natural miracles are just way better than anything we could ever design for ourselves. And the magnitude of the power of working with universal law in the way that I'll be describing is infinite, because the divine is working through you as you. So we're actually going to be taking a brief look at Gandhi today because he's a great example of what's possible both within the self and also out there in the physical world when you really follow these principles, which in fact he did. So I'll be leading you through a little exercise meditation today where we'll all be able to feel within our own minds and bodies the exact principles that I'm talking about, so that you'll really know firsthand what it feels like to work with these tools. And then finally, I'll be throwing down a 24-hour challenge to put all these principles into practice for one solid day, to live like a prayer for one full 24-hour period, which is really not as hard as it sounds. And you'll find out why. So that's it. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you there.